What is up, the YouTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to do a thought experiment video. So I was running the numbers a little bit, and many times when I sort of look at a Bitcoin maximalist, maybe on YouTube, it always feels like they are thinking very modest and linear when they talk about prices and so on. So if they especially after the bear market of 2018, they usually want to be extremely linear in thinking. They do not want to go so much into exponential thinking. So maybe, for example, they usually, when they feel real excited, they say, "Oh, maybe BTC can be a few $1 trillion." Now I'm looking at this, and they usually measure it against gold. So they go like gold 8 or 9 trillion or something like that, 7 or 9 trillion, 7 between 7 trillion to 9 trillion. I'm not sure exactly where, because gold went up like 30% this year. But it still feels very linear, because we already have had BTC at, what was it, 300 billion or something like that, 400 billion. So almost a triple, you would already be in the trillions. So it feels like they look at it in very linear terms. I think in more exponential terms are more interesting, that the future is probably not going to be the way we think in our linear mind. So I want to do a thought experiment. So I went and looked how much global real estate is, and it was $217 trillion. And I was considering, okay, we're gonna have computers that thinks a million times better than a human being. Okay, so $217 trillion. And then I was considering with store of value, which is a very interesting discussion. So for example, Bitcoin, it failed as cash, and now people are mainly talking about it as store of value. So, and then we got this new coin on an ERC20 token, HEX, which I made a lot of videos about, which is designed from the ground up to be a store of value. And I was running the numbers with around $200 trillion market cap as in global real estate, that total global real estate, and was then imagining it on digital crypto in a global age, that, okay, we're moving up to 8 or 9 billion people. I probably should be many trillions. So why not imagine the global real estate 217 trillion and put it on a digital and imagine it in a digital way with digital store of value. So for example, with HEX, if we imagine 50 billion tokens in circulation and 95% locked up, something like that. So 50 billion is in circulation, and count the market cap of that with 217 trillion in market cap, then we would get a price of around $4,340 per hex. And then I was imagining that a little bit with what I've heard other people talking about with XRP. They say 589, but let's go a little bit higher up. So I've heard one person once, one friend said $10,000 per XRP can be possible. So let's go with that. Okay, let's imagine 10,000 XRP coin versus 4,340 hex coin, and then a $10 million BTC. Because if we take $21 million Bitcoins times 10 million, so if each BTC was 10 million, you would end up around, when I ran the numbers, around 200 trillion. Now, I'm probably getting some numbers here wrong, but we don't, we can go with like some, just for a thought experiment. I may have some numbers wrong, but these should be around 200 trillion. The XRP thing, okay, we can imagine it with a little bit less supply, maybe 20 billion or 25 billion XRP in circulation. I don't know. It doesn't have to be exactly, but these numbers are used for fun a little bit. So So, for example, what I think, first of all, what's kind of interesting here is there's only one coin that is designed from the ground up to be a real store of value, and that is the HEX coin, which is designed to pump and has a website called hexstats.com where you can see when people are coming out of stake, and that it has built-in interest. So it's designed to pump, and it's designed to be a store of value from the ground. So so a high price for that would make a lot of sense. Bitcoin was designed to be cash, digital peer-to-peer cash, and that's why some of the original Bitcoin guys went forked Bitcoin to made Bitcoin Cash, because they were sort of annoyed with Bitcoin how it was no longer cash. But let's talk about. So Bitcoin wasn't really designed to be a store of value. So if it has like massive value, is that so good? Because compared to HEX, for example, people can always dump the Bitcoin on you because there's many people that owns 1% of Bitcoin and you don't know when they're gonna dump. So that might be a little bit concerning. Of course, with HEX, if they don't have the tokens staked, they can also like dump on you and you don't know about it. But you have more predictable dump rate on HEX, because larger supply of the tokens are staked and kind of locked away. But Bitcoin at $10 million, one big concern I have with it is not just that the dumping aspect, that people can dump on you, but also that the miners would make so much money, and that they're having this fake security theater show where it's like a protection racket where it's only the miners that can attack the network, and they have special hardware. So the miners would be super overpaid, and they already are, because nobody's attacking the network. So they're getting rich, and the developers on Bitcoin are not really getting rich because they're not really getting paid so well compared to the miners. And the holders of Bitcoin, they are also not really getting paid for holding up the price, so to say. And also that there's not that many guys, like little guys, that can get in easy on Bitcoin, because 40% of the tokens are 40% of all Bitcoin is owned by like 1,000 addresses or something like that. So there's not that many little guys inside there. So for me, it seems like it's more likely that HEX would go to $4,340 than that Bitcoin would go up to $10 million. And the main aspect there is that I think that miners would become too big of a leech on the BTC ecosystem, and that it eventually would not be good. Also, in terms of pollution, with all the electricity that's wasted on a fake security show, it seems like we can do way better with all these GPUs and powerful computers that they're used doing this fake security show when it's not really needed that much, because nobody's trying to attack Bitcoin daily. It's only like news websites that write some article, but that's not really an attack. So yeah, I think it would be more likely that HEX would go up way quicker uh, than that BTC would go up to $10 million a coin. Also, that you have this aspect with Bitcoin that exchanges has such a large grip now on Bitcoin. You have to go to centralized exchange just to get it, and also that it's very slow. What is it, 7 transactions per second or something like that, or maybe per 10 minutes? I'm not sure. Like, I know the blocks are every 10 minutes. I think it's 7 transactions per second. uh, and then we do have XRP. So let's imagine the $10,000 XRP. Can that be better than HEX, for example? If you come, is XRP a store of value? From what I heard from people, it is that XRP is supposed to take over the derivatives market. And so the derivatives markets go up to like 1.2 quadrillion. So that's why I said $10,000 per XRP. Maybe it can happen. Maybe it can happen. Uh, so so the issue I have with XRP is that it mainly seems to be a banker coin. And also one aspect of it that I don't really understand is I don't believe in this idea that most of the value is in sending cash in like 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. That there's a lot of cash in sending value around, because sending value around is like cheap. You don't need you don't need like you don't need any complicated system to send value from point A to point B. And it feels like XRP and also Ripple that they're sort of trying to have these fancy ideas and sell them to the public, that they are doing something super special, super unique, and that they need to have this like super advanced price to get things working and send value from one bank to another bank. For example, sure, they have a little bit cool technology, XRapid and some other technology. For example, I saw, for example, when they sent some fiat from one bank in one country to another bank in another country, and it went super fast, and they could send it. They could send different fiat currencies super quick to another bank, and it got verified super fast. But I don't really see how the general public would benefit so much from that, and why the XRP token would be needed for it, because they can use that XRapid technology, I think, without the XRP token. So so I still don't get why someone would enjoy then a $10,000 XRP, and it's still that you also can have this dump aspect with the XRP token, especially from the team itself, that they are having this massive amount of tokens, and also that you're not really getting any interest with the XRP token. If you're holding it, you're not really gonna get anything more as you're doing with the HEX token. Like, you're not getting interest by just holding it. So it doesn't seem like it's ideal for store of value. And I also have heard if the XRP sort of website, something like that, goes down, you can't really use XRP. Now, I'm not really sure exactly how it works, but you also have some other weird aspects with XRP. Is like, even now this year, you can't really find a decent wallet, I think. And it feels like stuff is not like super clear exactly how stuff works. Well, for example, with Hex token, you can store it in MetaMask, you can store it on Trezor, on Open Ledger, or no, not on Open Ledger. I mean, or is it called Ledger Nano? I think that you can store it there, and that the hex it's on Ethereum, and that Ethereum seems to be the best kind of proof of work ecosystem at the moment, that is kind of connecting the decentralized finance aspect of it, while it seems like XRP is trying to run its own sort of sideshow on the side, and want to be a little bit special with that. And then we do have Bitcoin on the other side, kind of want to be special with that, while Ethereum seems to be the best ecosystem to like generate tokens on. And yes, we've had, for example, we have some other interesting projects, a lot of interesting projects that sort of start on Ethereum as an ERC20 token, and then they try to go and sort of do their own thing. But maybe it's just ideal to like stay on Ethereum, because they have so many developers and they have so many interesting stuff they're working on in the future. The development really seems to be interesting, even though it's probably going to take a lot of years before it sort of starts to get rolled out. But I also enjoy how Hex token at the moment has a face, and that it more seems to be a people movement compared to XRP that mainly seems to be a banking movement. Or XRP feels more like it has more get rich quick people than Hex. Hex feels more like it has more game theory people that are more interested in that. And Bitcoin has a lot of libertarians, but it seems like they want to sort of be that they sort of want to be like super independent, and that they don't want to be connected to this whole other financial world. While Ethereum seems to be want to connect like the whole like the whole DeFi space, decentralized finance space. It seems like Ethereum building on that, having ERC20 tokens there, and having a smart contract there as Hex is having there, it seems like that is better than what XRP is doing, and sort of what Bitcoin is doing on the side. So Bitcoin, security show, XRP seems to be wanting to sell like these fancy ideas that they're gonna do all these big things. But and Hex is not really selling you that it's gonna do anything. It's just like it's just some code, it's just a smart contract, and it just keeps on running. Kind of like how Bitcoin sort of started when people can mine it on their GPU and maybe even CPU. I can't remember, but yeah, it's so it seems as overall that Hex, if we consider these prices like $10,000 XRP and and the Hex token at $4,340 and a Bitcoin at $10 million. For me personally, it seems like Hex would win easily. Uh, because people don't really have to sell it. Like if the Hex game theory system works, then people never really have to sell it because they can gain interest all the time, and maybe they sell a little bit here and there. But if the game theory actually works, then you don't really need another token, right? You can just hoard value and you sit on it. Same as people, if people sat on Bitcoin and didn't move it for 10 years, it's like that would be genius. And now the last few years, now you have all these middlemen that's moving in Bitcoin, and like that so many exchanges want to like leech off the value that Bitcoin sort of created automatically. So you have all these like experiments running, and it's going to be interesting to sort of see how it plays out. Because because you don't have to have like a loser in this space. Like maybe there's a market for all of these, or maybe one of them takes over the whole sort of industry. There's a lot of things sort of at play. Especially, I find the most important is the game theory aspect. Bitcoin seems to believe that the security is the biggest aspect. XRP seems to think that it's like the transaction speed that's the most important, but nobody's really using the technology. So, it's like, and Hex is just using its utility aspect of like you just lock it up and you're earning. So it's like a fully functional smart contract. It seems like that is the best one. And again, I mean, this industry is changing every couple of every couple of few weeks. Seems like something new happens, some new technology happens, or you get some new data. And it's like we're always coming from limited data, right? So we're like playing around with ideas and consider them a little bit from the limited data that we have right now. So and then we get new data coming in, and then we like update how we look at things. And I've really been you really go over that a lot in this sort of industry, and you experiment with a lot of stuff. You play around with ideas, you play around with tokens, you play around with different blockchains, and many concepts have like interesting ideas and so on. But then you start to look at, okay, can this easily get adoption, or do they have any marketing budget? Are they street smart? So what I like about HEX, for example, is that they seem to be kind of street smart team, which means that they're taking action now, and they're looking at what is happening right now. Do people actually care right now? And having that like game theory wise daily stats coming in is like very exciting, and they have the most memes. XRP don't really seem to have that much memes and not that much fun. Too much like corporate vibe. So, and I'm not really sure how that is going to engage the masses that just want something super fun to happen. And Bitcoin seems to be mainly now stuck in that the traders are just looking at these charts, and this is boring. I find it's not, it doesn't feel like Be a Rebel anymore. Hex really feels like Be a Rebel. And I, as I said, I'm mainly interested in what's going to be the best game theory system that wins out, and that we're both going to learn a lot from watching failures and watching success projects, and become smarter from that new sort of knowledge, and that everyone is many ways running towards the same goal, which is success. And we have all these different experiments running everywhere, and whatever succeeds, it's a lot of stuff that a lot of factors that is coming into play. Yeah, so that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. So yeah, have a great day, YouTube and Steam blockchain.